Hey guys, welcome back to Mob Tales, another session. We are welcoming today gentleman from Vegas who runs his own show to begin with, and he's involved in an event that's coming up soon. I think it's connected with the Mob Museum, I believe. Tommy Canale. Thanks you, Tommy, for coming on, and we are happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, Nick. I'm excited to be here and talk about the Mob Summit.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to give people a little bit of a small background about about what you do and who you are. Tommy does a lot of stuff with sports athletes. I think with college and I think high school, I believe as well. And he's dealt with musicians, actors, all kinds of different former FBI agents, ATF, you name it. He's also involved with a event that's coming up pretty soon. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And he has his own show called Before the Lights, as you can see. It's on behind him. And he's got a lot of interesting paraphernalia in the back with the sands and the stardust and a picture of Sammy and Frank and Dean. Without further ado here, maybe you can give the audience, outside of what I said, a little bit of what Tommy Canale is all about.
Absolutely. So yeah, I live here in Vegas. I have been the National Scout Director for a company called Recruit Look, which is based out of Kansas City, Missouri, for the last 10 plus years. And we evaluate high school athletes in various sports. Like I cover 8 different sports, and I go out and I scout them at their events when they're playing and see if they have college ability. And then we do a vetting process to see, is this family worth working for? And then if so, we go to work and assisting them to help them get college scholarships. It's a great thing to do because we're saving families money to send their kids to school. Let's face it, cost of college is not cheap and it's going up, and salaries are not going up, but
Yeah.
cost of school is. So it's rewarding in that effect. I do multiple sports. I've had my own podcast, as you said, Before the Lights, for coming up on 4+ years now. And I interview, as you basically said, Nick, people of all walks of life on how they made their mark. A lot of mob stuff, a lot of FBI agents, a couple guys that were connected to different outfits back in the day. So I enjoy that as well. And then years ago, I interviewed Larry Henry, who has his own 2 Facebook pages, in Las Vegas Mafia History page and Mob Summit. And if you're not a member of those, send Larry an invite to the group. And as long as you're not like going to sell Bitcoin or something spam, he'll let you in the group and then you can get in. It's a great group. And I interviewed Larry about his pages, and we talked about the mob. And from there, him and I formed this great friendship and become very good friends. And Larry started the Mob Summit back in 2018, had it in 2018 in Las Vegas, 2019 in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And then, as we all know, the pandemic hit and it went away for a while. And Larry and I had talked in the past about, let's get this thing going. Let's bring it back to Las Vegas. Let's get it going. Finally, I just said to Larry, you know what? We're doing it. Either you're on board or you're not. And he goes, I'm on board. So we're kicking it back off here come June 1st.
Awesome. Well, you said, like, before we get into the Mob Summit part of everything, you talked about sports and how you deal with what do you deal with? What, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, or?
Yeah, my number one sport is golf, men and women's golf, and then I do volleyball, men and women's basketball, baseball, softball, tennis, track and field, and soccer. So I handle all those sports. If somebody's out there, and this is crazy to say, but if you have a female golfer or a girls basketball player, man, we need to talk, because I need them like yesterday. We can't find them fast enough, Nick, to get them. We have so many colleges asking us for girls golfers and girls basketball players. Volleyball is hot. Boys golf is hot too. It just depends. And every sport's different and what I evaluate. And as being a former athletic director for 7 years, and assistant AD for 5 before that, and then being a head college golf and basketball coach, that kind of gives me the background on the ability to scout these kids and being around sports my whole life. So that's kind of where it comes in.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, I don't want to really get too, I don't want to get political or nothing, but because you mentioned girls' sports and the issues that are surrounding that nowadays with this, transgender players who are basically men playing against women. I mean, I don't know if you had any kind of issue with that or anything, but does that play any kind of a role in what you do?
I haven't come across that yet. I'm kind of surprised I haven't, but I have not come across that
Mhm.
bridge, so to speak. I figured I would cross it when I get there and see what I have to deal with, but it hasn't presented itself to me yet. The thing with it would go to the colleges anyway, Nick. I mean, I would have to present it to the coaches and let them make a decision if they wanted to get involved or not. It's probably be a further discussion with the family when we do the vetting process to see if they would fit on what they're looking for in a school and that kind of stuff, because that does play into effect when I meet with somebody and go, okay, you have talent to play at X level, well, that's Division II, Division I, Division III, NAI, or junior college. Then it comes to how far from home will you go? And that's always different from what mom and dad say. Because when I say to them, how far will you go? Well, I'll go anywhere. And then mom and dad are like, well, wait a minute, we don't want them that far away from home. So it kind of shrinks the opportunities they have. Uh,
Right.
so that's when all that conversation would take place, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, then I think you've been spared. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, when you also, it's another interesting thing is that you're also a cancer survivor.
Yes.
So that's God bless, that's great. Um, has that put any pressure when unfortunately we're going through that? Did that put any pressure on you? And did it also help with you being also a motivational speaker?
It definitely transitioned me into being an inspirational speaker. My father passed in May of 2006 of colon cancer, and I'm one of the oldest of three kids, and he had asked us all to get a colonoscopy
Mhm.
to make sure that we were all okay. And I was in my late 30s and said, "Yeah, I'm good, Dad. I got time." And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I thought I had time too." And I got tested, no symptoms, Nick. Came out of a colonoscopy. They told me I had to have surgery in 48 hours because I had a tumor that was already eating its way through my colon. And then, long story short, they gave me a 50% chance of survival. A PET scan revealed it was in my liver. Then they told me only 3% of the people that get it in their liver survive because you got to catch it early enough. They gave me one shot of chemo, and then they had to wait till that weared off the body for 30 days to open me up to do the liver surgery. And the liver surgeon came in the intensive care unit and said, someone's not ready to see you yet. And the cancer cells, they found it in 3 sections in my liver, but nowhere else. And all the cells in my liver were dead. And they don't have a medical explanation. I can't tell you how many doctors have looked at my file, looked at me, looked down, looked back up, like, is this person in front of me? Because I'm not really supposed to be here. They don't have an explanation how one shot of chemo could kill the cancer cells once it hit the liver, but that's what happened. And I've turned that into inspirational speaking and talking about my entire story and things that I've used with myself. And then when I was coaching to help change my life around completely 360 from where I was at that point in time to where I'm at today with studying nutrition and being a runner and watching what I eat and being a pescatarian, all this stuff, and how to really to look into the mirror of your own life and help change people's life to get them to lead a bigger and better life. So that definitely transitioned into me being an inspirational speaking. And then having the platform as a coach at the time, I coached my first season with a chemo pump in my suit pocket. And no, I didn't tell anybody. My coaches knew, my players didn't know until it got revealed when I had to unbutton my shirt one night because I was hot and they saw the wire, or the tube, I should say. They didn't know I was on. I had a chemo pump in my pocket. I had it in practice. I had it during games. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want the focus on me. It was more on the kids. We had a banner season that year. And then everything came out after the season when a reporter asked one of my kids about our season. And he said, well, with Coach Canale having a chemo pump and battling cancer, at least we could do was play hard. And the reporter was like, what are you talking about? And that opened up the floodgates. And then from there, I started becoming a speaker, and I still travel around all over the country to talk to organizations and teams and corporations about this. And it's well received. It's usually, you know, when you have a motivational speaker, I call it inspirational, because motivational speakers will light you on fire and people will be clapping and they're all excited when they leave. When I get done, you're motivated, but you're motivated internally and mentally from a different reason. And you're already thinking, I do get the applause, but it's more of, you've opened my eyes, and you can see the brain is working to start changing some stuff.
Wow. Okay. Well, so you were coaching what sport at the time?
Basketball. I was coaching junior college basketball at the time in Illinois, at Illinois Valley Community College.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Is that where you went to? Did you go to that? Did you graduate from there?
No. So when I was young, as my parents said, stay in school, I did not. I was living here in Las Vegas. I went to UNLV for one semester, and then I went into a trade school that's no longer around called National Broadcasting College. And from there, I got into radio. I got jobs in radio, and I started working in radio here in Las Vegas. And then I became a mobile DJ and started DJing clubs, weddings, and I took that back to Illinois, did radio there. And so my whole life has been around media and athletics, and then come back to Las Vegas with athletics, and now into podcast, and now putting on events. It's like everything is still the same two circles.
Okay, that explains where you are now. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like you made a U-turn.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Well, to get to the next thing I want to discuss is about the Before the Lights show. Tell us a little bit about the show. How did it begin, and what its premise is?
Yeah. So a friend of mine back in 2019, she kept telling me that I should have a podcast. I listened to podcasts. I had no desire to do a podcast. She knew my background and said, you'd be perfect for it. And she kept pushing. And finally I said, okay, if you want me to do a podcast, then you got to come up with a concept. And she said to me, well, you always say when you listen to podcasts that you hate that all they talk about is the current stuff in their lives. They don't talk about their backstory. Do it. And I started putting some things together. That's where the concept came from. Before the Lights. It's before the lights came on, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's a show about how they made their mark. And it was just sports, music, and entertainment, but it quickly started to grow into all these different avenues and branches of mob and FBI and models and actresses and some true crime people that were contacting me, and you know, musicians, actors, actresses, celebrities. I mean, it's the whole gamut. So I just kind of, instead of going sports, music, entertainment, went to how they made their mark. The mob stuff, and you'll know this as well, it's second to musicians. I can do it. If you take away musicians, anybody else I do, I'm going to get what I know is pretty much my downloads. If I do a musician, it's going to blow up because everybody who's a fan of that musician wants to hear the show. Mm-hmm. So for that 1 week, I get this huge influx because they all have these huge followings, whether it was Little River Band or Ricky Medlock with Leonard Skinner. All these people want to hear that story. So they'll gravitate to that one show, and then it goes back down. The mob, soon as I release it, it's 2.5 times my normal show. It doesn't sometimes catch those musicians, but it's right up there. And sometimes it does exceed it. Anything to do with organized crime. I've released Mob Talk Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 now, which is I've taken the best of 10, 12 former interviews with mob people and made one show to go, here's a clip of the last 10 people I've interviewed in organized crime, and those get big hits as well. But the mob stuff it's hotter now than I think it ever has been. Nick, and I think that is because this younger generation is becoming exposed to it, and they can't wrap their brains around that this stuff really happened. You know, they just are like, it doesn't seem feasible to them that what happened in organized crime in the 70s and 80s in New York and Chicago and Las Vegas and Detroit and Milwaukee and Cleveland, they can't fathom that this stuff is actually real and it's not made up.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. Well, on that subject, we're gonna just I want to talk about the Mob Summit that's coming up on June 1st, which I am very happy to be part of. Looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. Well, first, give us like you said, Larry. This was Larry Henry's brainchild, from what I understand. In 2018. Now, what is it? What he did then, and what you guys are doing now? Is there a difference? Is there an upgrade, or what's the difference?
In 2018, when he had it here at the Plaza downtown, it was a 3-day event, and they did a day at the Mob Museum, and they had speakers come in and guests, and they did book signings and that type of thing. And it was a big 3-day event. I'm sure the one in Hot Springs was a multi-day event, and I think it was going to continue to go to different locations until COVID hit. And then it became, we just need to get it back going again. And Larry's vision has always been that he just wanted to do like this gathering, this somewhat called dinner. Well, to get it back going, we started thinking about some locations here in town that we thought would be very good and looking at a bigger event, a multi-day event, and then realized, wait a minute, we need to really start from scratch because it's been 4 years since or 5 years since anything's happened. And we need to gain capital to bring it back up to have a bigger event in 2025. So when we decided to do that, we're like, okay, we need to find a smaller venue. I know the owner, Albert Scalliot of Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Wine Bar, where it's gonna be held. If you're familiar with DeFara Pizza in Brooklyn, it's the same pizza. He made a deal with the people from DeFara's and he named it after Dom DeMarco, who was the old man of that pizza place. I mean, he's got, the food is off the charts. I mean, you don't have to worry about the food, but he has this beautiful patio outside that's enclosed and climate controlled. Then there's a lower level patio that can seat some other people. So I said to him one day, do you know any smaller venues I can hold this event at? And he said, my patio. And I started thinking about it and we started mapping it out that it could work for year one. So it's going to be smaller than this Mob Summit has ever been. We are really capped at 100 people. There's no more room. The inside holds 50 by the time we put up a stage. And by the time that we have our VIP, there's only about 30 of those tickets available. There's VIP tickets. I think there's half of those left, 4 or 5 left maybe. And then the inside tickets for the covered patio, there's only about 30 of those. The lower patio, you can't see into the upper patio. There's 50 or 55 of those seats that we can get down there. We're going to have a big screen TV with a sound system out there so you can see and hear what's going on inside. And then, of course, we're going to have the pizza and pasta buffet. But that's kind of how this thing came, Nick, is we're going to have this smaller event this year, 25. We'll make some announcements that night because we'll have some more information about possibly what we're going to be doing, depending on the capital we can raise. To have a bigger multi-day event in 2025 and really kick this thing back up to a whole nother level with maybe some even bigger sponsors and in a hotel involved and all this other stuff. So we can bring in some more names and some bigger names from like maybe TV and movies as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so they kind of did something like that here in Jersey called the Sopranos Con.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was there. I went there to the Sopranos Con. I went to the other one, which was the Mob Con or something like that. It was good. It was interesting. You know, like you said, they had a lot of guys from the Sopranos, from Goodfellas, signing autographs, that kind of thing. But what they didn't have, what you guys are going to have, is they didn't have any mob experts or mob book writers. What you guys are doing is something totally different. Actually, I think a lot better because not that having actors that play these roles not interesting, yes, but it's kind of like done. It's been done like so many times already. But to have a venue where fans can come and see the actual writers of the books they've read, and have them signed or whatever, or buy the books, I think is going to be a lot more interesting and definitely different. Um, and having Sal Polisi speak, which would be an also cool thing. It's funny because he used to have a club called the Sinatra Club.
Yeah.
And back in the late 70s, 80s. And that's where John Sr. got kind of, is like where he used to hang out before he became anybody. And it's funny because I went to that place when I was a kid. I was about maybe 17 years old or something like that. And one of my friends' father was, one of those guys. And I went with him. And, way back now. So it's pretty interesting going to be him being one of the speakers, which is pretty awesome. So the event is going to be starting at what, 5 to 9, I think it is?
Yeah, 5 to 9. VIP gets in at 4:30. So from 5 to 6, instead of having they all had social clubs, we're going to have a social hour from 5 to 6, where yourself and other people have tables where people can purchase books, autographed books for them, and take photos. Outside of yourself, Alan Geik will be there, that wrote a book. His Uncle Charlie killed Dutch Schultz.
I know Alan.
He's going to be there. Gary Jenkins is going to be there signing his book about the Las Vegas scam. And Larry has Gangland Wire podcast and the Gangland Wire Facebook site. I mean, Gary's very well respected in the business and in the industry. He's coming. Gino Minari will be there, and he wrote a book on the mob up when he was working at the Dunes. Gino will be there, and then Nick Parisi will also be there. He has a book called King of Bootleggers Murder, and then he's writing another one that he's hoping to have released by June 1st, a brand new book on the Springfield mob. So he'll be there signing books. We're still working on a couple other people that could possibly be there for signing books. I got room for like 2 more tables that we can set up and have that to go. So we'll do that from 5 to 6 so people can come in. If they don't want to buy books, they can mingle around with people like yourself, and me and Larry will be there. Jeff Schumacher will be there from the Mob Museum. He'll be roaming around. Pamela Payton told me she's coming in town. She was actually Lefty Rosenthal's co-host for his, if you want to call it, his TV show.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Yes, she'll be here. She's confirmed that she's coming in, and we're working on some other people as well. And then at 6 o'clock, we'll break that down. And then at 6:15, we're going to go into our preliminary panel, so to speak. We're recording this on a Sunday about 12. This will come out after that, but tonight at 6 o'clock, we're actually going to release. We confirmed yesterday that the preliminary panel speaker is going to be Frank Calabrese Jr. from Family Secrets. Yeah, so Frank is going to speak first, and then we'll have he'll be from 6:15 till around 7 o'clock. The buffet will be 6:30 to 7:30, and then Sal will come on 7:30 to 8:30. And then before we close up 8:30 to 9, we'll give some information on 2025. And then we're going to have a couple live auction items, and then we're going to have silent auction items as well for people to bid on. Because like I said, we're trying to raise some capital to really kick this thing off in 2025.
Well, being yourself a sports guy and your background that you discussed, where the interest or fascination with the mob come from?
It's always been something for me. I'm from a small town called Streeter, Illinois. There was a guy, a local guy by the name of Dan Cherney wrote a book called Capone's Cornfields. There's a lot of stories about Al Capone back in the day. He used to hide out in different places in Streeter and come through there back in those days. And then, Madman Sam, he was born in Streeter.
Right.
So he was born in my town. He, whacked out guy, crazy guy, and that kind of stuff. So I kind of grew up with having a little bit of interest. And as I got older, I really got an interest in organized crime. I really studied it for a little bit of while, and then I got away from it. And then, obviously coming to Vegas as a young kid and growing up on the Strip in the 80s, and learning about Spilatro and Rosenthal and the Hole in the Wall gang and all that stuff. It's just kind of gone from there. And then every time I watched a movie, I would dive into it, going, "Is this real? How much is fake?" You know, and that kind of stuff.
No,
And
I
then,
can tell you that. I can tell you
yeah,
it's real. But
yeah. So then I just started becoming more and more of a historian into organized crime, and now it's just something that's become, a daily thing for me to dive into stuff.
well, being raised in that area, did you, and I mean, Illinois, Chicago area, have you ever been rubbed shoulders with guys in that life?
No, the only thing I can say that, and I don't even know if it was that time, I think it was, there's a walkway between the Luxor and I think it's um Excalibur. There
Hmm.
was a walkway, and it was late at night one time, and I was walking in between there, and like four guys in suits came around the corner. It was just one of those feelings you're like, okay, wait a minute, who is that? I don't know who it was. I just kind of mind my own business. And when I was with a friend of mine, we walked by and we just kind of both looked at each other like, is that who we think it is? We're like, we don't know who we think it is, but it was one of those things where, they carried themselves different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Well, around what time was this? The 80s or 90s?
it had been in the 80s,
Oh,
80s,
okay. All right.
80s, early 90s, that type of thing. But we don't, it could have been just, some executives as well. I don't know, but it's not as close if I could say I ever rubbed shoulders with anybody. I do have a photo that used to be in the Mob Museum for a while of Mark Casper, the guy that arrested Tony Spilatro, and the cuffs are still on display at the Mob Museum. The picture that was posted at the Mob Museum was taken in my living room, from my parents' living room, because my aunt was dating Mark Casper at the time.
Ah, very nice. There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've met Mark a couple times. I know he's out in Texas now, but one day when I was in the Mob Museum and saw that picture, I was like, wait a minute, that's my living room.
That's pretty funny. Well, I mean, being that the mob in general is not, they're not involved in Vegas anymore. They've been out of that area for years, and Vegas is becoming more of a, Walt Disney type of area for for the families and stuff like that. I mean, do you think that the people say when the mob leaves, it changes? It's just not the same anymore. It was more exciting when they were around, or it was safer even when they were around. Would you buy into that, or do you think that's just a fantasy?
No. People ask me all the time, do I like the new Vegas or old Vegas? I like the old Vegas. I understand why we have the new Vegas. I get it. The old Vegas its time is past. I get that. The mega resorts, the sands, the Trops coming down, the dunes, they just couldn't compete with these bigger resorts. So I understand that. But do I think Vegas ran better when the mob did it? Yes. Was it illegal? Yes. Do I agree with that? No. But was it a better town then? I think absolutely. I mean, no more do you see the $1.99 steak and eggs breakfast specials. You don't see, it's not about the food anymore. I mean, you can't get a buffet for $9.99 prime rib anymore. It's like $99.99 if you're gonna do a buffet anymore, if there are good buffets around anymore. The whole town has changed. I mean, just the way it was ran, the people that were here, it was a different era. It was a different town. I do miss Vegas at that time when it was 2, 3, 400,000 people compared to now where it's over 3 million. It's just a completely different town. I mean, I'm sitting in my place now that was desert when my family moved here in the 80s.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I heard this correctly from somebody. Um, but the Tropicana, that's not there anymore, right?
No, it's still there. It's open now. It's closing April 2nd.
Yeah, I knew something like that was happening.
They haven't, they just came on this week saying they don't know how it's going to be taken down, if they're going to do a big formal implosion like the other casinos are, or if they're just going to start demolishing and taking it down. What I'm hoping is, and I just did a show that'll come out in April 11th with Michael Green, who's a historian at UNLV and on the board at the Mob Museum, about the Tropicana and its history. And we talked about the 4,290 square foot stained glass ceiling in the casino. Nobody knows what they're going to do with that iconic glass ceiling that's been there since the opening.
Yep.
Are they just going to demolish it? Are they going to sell it off? Are they going to allow some of the Nevada special collections or the museum come and get some of that to keep? Nobody knows. It's all up in the air. You know, those bungalows that were off the pool, that was one of the first buildings built, is still there. And my understanding is that there may be some original stuff in those bungalows. And are they just going to demolish that, or what are they going to do with that kind of stuff? So it's all up in the air.
Yeah, but it's, well, see, now the Tropicana is like, it's kind of sad thinking about it, because Tropicana is a big part of Vegas's history,
Oh,
and the mob in general.
yeah, I mean, it goes back to, I mean, it was found out that it was linked when King Gigante went
Yeah.
after Frank Costello, and they found the note in his pocket with the take of the skim from the Trop. And that's when the whole thing started to come together with, okay, the Trop's mobbed up, and there was always rumblings that it was, but that really kind of opened up the eyes to there's something going on here in Las Vegas. I mean, I've always been a fan of the Trop. I'm sad to see it go. There's a part of me that hopes the last minute that somehow they'll go, okay, we're going to put that stadium somewhere else and we're going to revitalize the Trop. I would be all for that, but I think that's wishful thinking at this point.
Well, why couldn't they just use the Trop as something like a, how would I say it? Like something where people who want to see Vegas history, they can use as a place where people can go visit, like a museum kind of a thing, rather than taking away a part of Vegas's history.
Yeah, I mean, they did that. You're right, Nick, because that's what they've done with the other ones. When the Riviera came down and the Sands came down and the Castaways came down, and the Dunes and the Desert Inn, they just imploded them. You know, the Hacienda, there's a little bit part of the marina still left that's in the MGM. That's kind of part of their hotel. But this is the last really one that has mob ties, except for the Fremont downtown that was part of Argencorp. But on the Strip, this is the Trop's the last one. I mean, Circus in Caesar's Palace was built by Jay Sardo. Can you say Jay was a little connected? Possibly, but were they mobbed up and ran? Not really. Slots of Fun next to Circus, and then you got New Resorts World that's next door where Stardust was. But they weren't, connected to all this skim and the Las Vegas mob history. So the Trop on the Strip is the last remaining property that has any kind of history.
I mean, just as another question, when it comes to that with the Tropicana, wouldn't Oscar Goodman somehow be involved with, saving it or whatever? Wouldn't he have any kind of say in that matter?
I don't think so. I mean, now that he's up there in age now. I mean, his wife's still the mayor. I just don't. I know that she really wanted that stadium to go downtown somewhere. I know she wasn't a fan of it being on the Strip, so maybe she was trying to preserve it and lost out on whatever the political people and the higher ups decided that this is where it's going to go. I don't think they can say. I don't know if they can save it. What I did do though, I was talking about the auction. Knowing that this is going to close, and by the time the Mob Summit gets here, it could be down, it could be emptied, who knows what. I went to the gift shop, and they didn't have much left, and I just said, whatever you got with the Trop, give it to me. And I got some merchandise and some memorabilia, and I got some casino chips and stuff from the casino with the Trop on it, and we're going to put together a Trop package on the silent auction for the Trop.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good, man. Well, look, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and very interesting information. I'm sure everybody is going to be eating all this information up. And I definitely suggest everybody who's listening that definitely come to Vegas, man. Check out the Mob Summit. I'm going to be there, and a lot of interesting individuals are going to be there, like Alan. And Frank Calabrese, who I do know. So it's going to be a great show. and a great event. And hopefully it grows and becomes bigger by next year. And I really thank Tom for being a part of it, and Larry. I think it's a great thing to have out there. Like you said, I think not just our generation, but the younger generation, it's good for them to have a little knowledge about this. You know, how did Vegas come together? How did Atlantic City come together?
Mhm.
The wise guys had a lot to do with it. Like my son is 26. He knows very little about this world. He
Right.
hears it from me because, I hung around with guys like that. A lot of these guys, my friends. I have the show going on. I wrote books. That's the only reason why he knows. Otherwise, if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't know nothing. And most of his generation are not very familiar with The Godfather or even The Sopranos. Even The Sopranos came out in the 90s or
Mhm.
2000. Sorry, even that they know a little bit, but they don't, like you said, they don't grasp it. They don't say, "What is this?" bunch
Yeah,
of
they
old
don't.
bunch of old guys in suits. What are they doing? You
They don't. And to get tickets, I'll get you the link, Nick, to the Eventbrite site. If you can post that in your show notes where people can click on that and they can go right there
Sure.
and get tickets.
So tickets are still available for people to come to see check it out.
Yeah, tickets start at $70. There's three different price range, $70 for the lower level patio, 85 inside, and VIP is 100.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, too bad you weren't carrying on for more than one day. That would be really cool.
Yeah, we will. We're growing to it. We got to start somewhere. So we're starting here, and the plans are in place for it to have a bigger one in 25 for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. Pleasure speaking with you. I wish you a lot of luck. Hope everything goes well with the Mob Summit, and we'll definitely keep abreast of Before the Lights.
I appreciate you having me on, and thank you for talking about the summit and about Before the Lights. So anybody who listens into one show, I support it and I thank you for it. Thanks, Nick, for the time.
No, thank you, buddy.